right now, let's continue the conversation about the economy and the bull market. Alexandra.
Yeah, it's not a clear slate for a boom market, nor is it, nor are we really already in a recession. The soft landing is possible. I mean, I'd have a hard time letting the Fed know that they did this right. I don't think they did this right, but if they manage a soft landing here, it's good. What is very encouraging is actually the actions of three people that have knowledge in this market. One is Jim Chanos, was finally giving up, closing his hedge fund. I don't think it's with a light heart. I mean, we'll talk about that in a recording we're doing tomorrow, Herbert, his position in Tesla, but it's not only Tesla. He also had a huge position in the Chinese real estate market and all that. The fact that he's unwinding is he's giving up. He knows this market is not ripe for his bearish stances. The second one is Citadel's Ken Griffin. Ken is supposedly in very advanced talks to purchase the Miami Dolphins, the Hard Rock Stadium, and the Formula One Grand Prix in Miami. So all three in Florida. You don't do that if you're not extremely bullish on entertainment, on the consumer, on tourism, and on all those cyclicals that are the first ones to suffer in a recession. And I mean, if Citadel doesn't have all the insider information, and this is stuff he's financing with his own money, I don't know what's happening. And then the third point is something very personal. I've watched the Grand Prix in Las Vegas. I'm a Grand Prix girl. I've been to quite a lot of them. I follow this very closely. And we were all very, very skeptical whether this is going to be a success. Thursday night was a disaster. And in the end, Sunday, in the night from Saturday to Sunday, everything was glorious. People were really having a good time. The employees of the Wynn Casino had $700,000 of tips to share among themselves. So depending on their level, each of them left with $2,000 to $4,000 of tip just from that one night from people playing at the casinos. So this all gives me, and I mean, I know this is the top of the crop that really likes Grand Prix and has the extra money to spend, but this gives me a lot of comfort, especially since the next morning, on Monday morning, we all received our email saying you can already pre-book for 2024, the hotel rooms, the places and whatsoever. So I just feel that in segments that are highly cyclical, we currently see a lot of very encouraging signs, and that is typically the beginning of a huge boom market.
So my information came from watching a number of economists, and what they're saying is that we are headed into a boom market, and here's why, right? First of all, you're correct. I'm not saying that we're not going to get into recession. That's still very much on the table. Just a month ago, Elon came out, said that he has to prepare for it. He's not saying it's going to happen, but he has to prepare for it. Very much still on the table. But here's the four things that economists are pointing to. Number one, there's short seller capitulation that's happening right now. And they said that typically just before the boom market happens, you see this activity happening. Two, there's been significant amount of money that's been sitting on the sidelines that are now starting to flow into the Magnificent Seven and starting to show in the S&P 500, and we're starting to be invested because there's now anticipation of the Fed fund rate going down. Three, the AI boom is real. We've seen that at the beginning of this year. Now we're seeing that spread to multiple companies, showing that this is not just this technology, but actually impacting workers. And you can see certain companies already firing people because they don't need the copywriter anymore. People are becoming more productive. I think it's a tool that every employee is able to use, are using, and is showing up now, just now, as quickly as now. You don't even have to wait 2 years for this. And then the fourth thing is the investment that we're seeing in the AI tools, the chips, the data warehouses, and all companies are doing this now. That's why you saw NVIDIA just clobber, just smash their expectations and their across-the-board earnings and revenue, everything, because the demand for this is through the roof. Every company's trying to do this. So that's the difference between this time around, obviously switching from a kind of this recessionary period of inflation that's now being tamed. This is the reason AI boom came in, and this is something that people are just going to, no matter what the environment is, they have to spend the money. and they need to go there. So let's talk about Tesla, what you think, how this might affect Tesla. And so we've got this table here that Gary Black shared that I thought was really good. This is the expectations by the market for the Fed fund rates. And if you see here in November and December 23, this is where we're at. It's going to stay flat. Now, just recently, we started hearing that there's even a potential for the Fed to do a pivot, a cut in December. But the percentage of them doing a cut in March is now skyrocketed high. So that's where most market makers are anticipating it to do that. But here's the anticipation. By the end of the year 2024, you're going to see a cut. So when this happens, it has a double impact to Tesla, right? So number one, he says it will reduce the odds that Tesla will need to cut EV prices again, right? Because the interest rates fall, Tesla's prices, they may even be able to raise it. Their margins will rise. And then the second thing is long duration stocks. So the growth companies like Tesla, that's where the people will, have pulled back in the last several years because of high interest rates. Now they're going to be much more open to that. What is the panel's thinking about that?
Yeah, I think Tesla's going to deliver 2.4 million cars in 2024. And I feel fairly confident of that. I'm looking at China running flat out. I'm looking at Berlin running flat out. And I'm looking at Fremont running flat out. And, I think that Austin will deliver a fairly significant number of Ys. And I'm not counting on much more than 75,000 or so Cybertrucks. So I think that we're going to deliver a fairly significant number of cars at well-priced, at reasonable prices in the year of 2024. I'm very confident of that. And I think that's somewhat independent of economic circumstances because I think demand is there. I mean, Europe's having a great year, by the way. Tesla's share in Europe has climbed significantly. I think it's at a record level, despite everybody's naysaying. I think China's doing very well. The numbers last week for China deliveries was lower because all of these cars are on the dock for export, but this week was great. I think it's going to be a great end of a quarter for China, but I think next year is going to be fantastic for China. That's my view.
What do you think, Alexandra?
No, I agree. My number is 2.3, just because I'm a little bit more conservative.
Alexandra!
Yeah, but I mean, come on. For once, I let you be the most optimistic there. But I mean, it's a napkin written little number. It's not as if I've really thought this through.
I put a case of Tablas Creek on the table for that.
Oh, there you go. Oh, you just want to win your wine again because you love it so much, right? So why am I a little bit skeptic? I'm a little bit skeptic on Berlin ramping up. I mean, Berlin has really been, slow in getting there. They're now getting the permits for the expansion, so they'll be busy also building the second building and the battery ramps. So I'm a little bit worried about that. And I mean, I agree with Jeff. It would be wonderful if those Ys from Berlin could be imported to India at a competitive price without any duties, or only with very little duties. That would be great. But Berlin at the moment is producing what they can sell, right? I'm just not sure that they can really step it up already. Recruiting seems to be, still a major difficulty. I don't read a lot of German press, and they are as bad as they're here in the United States. So you always have to check twice or three times whether it's really as bad as they pretend. But there seems to be a real backlog in finding the right personnel. The funny thing, just read a couple of weeks ago, Tesla is now recruiting veterans. When you get out of what is called the Bundeswehr, the German army, they recruit them directly from there. They find they have the right attitude, and then they form them for whatever job they need them. And I think they've gotten the first 80 or 100 of them with great success. So that was very popular in the German press. So 2.3, which I think is a great number. I have no doubt we'll get to the 1.8 million this year. And I mean, if it is 10 less or 10 more, we'll hear it all day long, right? That's just going to be it. But I think we're going to be quite close to it.
Okay. So
there was a survey on that.
No, I know. I saw that. I don't know what they're steering there.
Could I jump in about Berlin's production? Sure. I read today that the concern about Berlin's production levels is that fourth shift is going to adds a significant cost. I think actually it's going to be well worth it, to deliver to India to add that fourth shift. That's my read of the subject. So I think right. That's true, but the marginal additional volume and margin on that additional revenue, I think, is quite significant. So I think we're going to see a fourth shift in Germany next year, and I think we're going to see demand off the
I'm not worried about demand. I'm more worried about finding sufficient employees and getting the ramp really finished off. And while they're already building the next building, building the $25,000 Model 2 line there as well. I mean, there's so many things happening, Brian, where you just feel like, okay, get this one up and running full speed. I think Tesla is actually expanding as we speak, and there is no point talking about it. And while we're talking about Elon's posts, nobody watches what Tesla is doing, and it's just as well. Because, we don't need everyday, Tesla news backing back and forth. Again, the fact that a major short seller, the one that was really feeding all these other armies of short sellers, is giving up on Tesla is a major point. We're going to follow the next couple of quarters what's happening on the short positions, but I would not be surprised that Tesla shorts are going down. Tesla is one of the stocks that has not appreciated, Jeff just said it, that has not appreciated like an NVIDIA. NVIDIA went from 200 to now 500, and maybe by the end of the year, it's 600, right? There you get into zones where some people feel the lack of oxygen. Tesla at 240, there is a lot of oxygen left. There are a lot of things that can happen that bring that stock back to 400. So this would be a moment I would not be out of the stock, honestly. I mean, I think most of the people that watch us should really not be in margin, but that's their personal decision to be taken. But I would not want to be outside of this stock for the year to come. I think this is going to be a major year, major appreciation.